And without any ado, I'm going to request Mr. Nishant Arya to give the welcome address.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think today we have a really august panel. All of us are looking forward to hearing to our Honorable Chief Guest, Sri General Dr. V.K. Singh Ji, who is the Honorable Minister for State for Road Transport, Highways and Civil Aviation in Government of India, who's always been giving us his vision and perspective, what we can do, what we should do, and how the industry can prosper. And then we have Sri Tarun Kapoor, who's the advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister and PMO, having a 360-degree overview what's happening across the industry, how industry can really work together, what are the different opportunities which we see, and clearly giving us an idea that what got us here will not take us there, and we can understand what has to be done. And then with me, I have my colleague Krishnan Kumar, who is also the co-chairman of the National Council of Automotive, and Harshvardhan, who is leading the automotive practice at NRI. So with this, we kick off this conference today, and I think it's a right timing for discussing about the electric mobility and the EV ecosystem, because this is what is going to ensure the energy security for our country, where we can see that India becomes the EV capital of the world, and we can really become very independent, where we talk about the whole EV ecosystem starting from generation to consumption. So when we are generating green, we are talking about 500 gigawatts of renewable energy by the end of 2030. And on the other hand, we see at least 30% in every segment, and in many segments going up to 50 to 60% adoption of electric vehicles, where multiple technologies are being worked upon today, whether we talk about power electronics, whether we talk about batteries, chargers, electric vehicle technologies, where the efficiency level and the kind of output and the range anxiety is being addressed. At the same time, all of us see that total cost of ownership, what we used to see when the FAME 1 was kicked off in 2015, about 7 years back, and now in the extension of FAME 2, which is until 24 March, all the different manufacturers are looking at launching more and more products. So 7 years back, what we had in terms of EV products was maybe a handful of products, but today we have numerous products by different manufacturers, and they are creating the full lineup here. And all of us have multiple choices what to buy from, and as the days go by, we will be having many more products. And with the PLI coming in, and the kind of demand and supply both get matched. Only we were on the supply side with the FAME, but with the PLI coming in on the demand side as well, there are enough incentives for best-in-class manufacturing setups to be created, and to clearly see that how we are becoming most competitive manufacturing setup in the world, not only make in India for India, but making in India for the world, and clearly understanding that how the regulations, how the systems in the industry, which is based on the CMVR, the UBS norms, which the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways is releasing on a constant basis, is following global benchmarks, whether in terms of charging, we see multiple fast charging networks being set up with CCS2. On the other hand, we are seeing that on the battery side, on the battery PLI, multiple companies are investing in battery technology, cell manufacturing, and the module and the pack and the BMS manufacturing, which is definitely going to be a paradigm shift in what we have been doing till now, primarily more from the mechanical side to electronic side. And definitely this is the time where we can harness the potential. I always take a comparison between the solar sector and the automotive and EV sector now, because in 2009, 2010, when solar industry really started, at that time we did not focus much on local manufacturing, which has been done now with the solar PLI. But a lot of time is lost, and many international companies across the world have taken leadership positions. So India would be taking a leadership role, but not the leader amongst all. Whereas in case of EV, we have caught it early, and we have seen that what we lost in 2009, is not being repeated again, but we are able to really invest in technology, and not only manufacturing, but designing, creating, and developing these technologies. That's why many global majors are investing in India. and setting up their R&D centers here, not only for the domestic requirements, but the global requirements. And now with the semiconductor focus coming in, many different semiconductor fabs coming in, the full supply chain will be localized, almost 90% of it when it comes into play and when the SOP starts. So that clearly demonstrates that there's a roadmap, that there's a technology understanding where as a country, and now we understand that another PLI is in the pipeline, which is on the high-tech batteries as well. Today only I read in the papers in the morning and some articles. So I think it's very heartening to see at the pace we are moving. Almost all the states have come out with their state EV policies, and in those EV policies they are competing amongst themselves and releasing new versions day by day, that any improvements happening, how can they do that. And at the same time, multiple collaborations are happening for companies where the industry, academia, as well as the government are participating together in creating technology, and R&D expenditures being subsidized, where with IITs or with other good institutions, a lot of work is being done. And what is heartening to see is the kind of activities being done by startups here. And startups are playing a key role because they're very frugal and agile in their mindset, and they have no legacy or baggage to carry. On one hand, at this other hand, they have lack of resources. So how to perform within the limited resources is something which they're doing very well, and coming up very competitive solutions, which is very interesting. And that is something which I personally learned from Israel, that how in different cases where startups are there, how they talk about fail fast, fail cheap. And companies, what I would urge, if there are startups here today as well, that who are not doing well and who have failed, we should see that as a learning opportunity for ourselves, and see that, like in Israel, I was giving an example, 70% plus funding which happens in different cases is happening to company promoters who have failed in the past, because they know what is success like, and their ability to succeed in future is phenomenal. Also, very happy to see that today we will be releasing the report which NRI has made, encompassing all the key segments of electric mobility, and really seeing that how it is meaningful for each and every stakeholder to see what are the opportunities, what are the challenges which are there today, and how can they look at it, what can be done. And definitely we have the right panel in place today to address all your questions, so please feel free to ask any questions. And the perspective here in the inaugural session and the many other sessions coming up is that we have a very good mix of industry, startups, academia, financial institutions, and government officials, with the leadership coming in, that how can all stakeholders come together and orchestrate and create the right set of framework for the industry to prosper and the government to really achieve a zero emission footprint, which our Honorable Prime Minister has created for us in 2070. Last year we heard that around COP26, now we're heading towards COP27 next month as well. So I think these are certain important initiatives which puts India on the world map, but it all depends how eager are we to be ahead of the curve as a society, as a country. What is our commitment? What we have seen during COVID, that the change of environment and health is so very important for all of us. So I think it is our social commitment rather than a commitment at an industry or a government level, which each one of us, if we imbibe and take it as our responsibility and accountability, we can really contribute in our own way, and therefore everything can become sustainable, and sustainability drives scalability. I always believe that if you make sustainability profitable, you can make profitability sustainable. So I think that is a mindset which, if the industry and all stakeholders work together and create, can really create substantial value, and really see that today, primarily in the manufacturing sector, close to 50% of the manufacturing GDP comes from the automotive and auto component sector. But I personally see that in this, multiple sectors have a great opportunity, in addition to startups and the new entrants, whether coming from energy sector or renewable energy sector or power sector, or from the railways, in addition to automotive, auto components, because all have different things to add. And there are many other areas, including defense and software, because we have simplified the architecture in electric vehicles quite a lot, and especially if I take example of a large commercial vehicle, from 2,000 moving parts we go to 20 moving parts in a large electric vehicle. So the architecture is completely simplified, and definitely it brings a lot of opportunities for all of us, where I do not see any risk of redundancy as such, but opportunity to learn, unlearn and relearn, where all of us can really contribute. So wishing the conference the best, and really looking forward to all our chief guests and guests of honors and my other colleagues on the dais to really give us a clear perspective and what is in it for all of us, what could we look at, what could we do in this case. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nishant Arya, for the address and setting the context and theme for our today's program. It's time for me to now invite Mr. Harshvardhan Sharma, Head of Automotive Retail Practice, Automotive Industry Consulting Group, NRI Consulting and Solutions India Private Limited, also our knowledge partner at today's event, to kindly address the gathering. Let's all welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you, Nishantji, for the wonderful start. Namaskar and very good morning to all of you. General Dr. V.K. Singh, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Youth Seva Medal, ADC, Honorable Minister of State for Road Transport and Highways and Civil Aviation, Government of India, Shri Tarun Kapoor, Advisor to Honorable Prime Minister, PMO, Shri Nishant Arya, Chairman, National Council on Green Mobility, ASSOCHAM, and Vice President, JBM Group, Shri S. Krishna Kumar, Co-Chairman, National Council on Auto and Auto Ancillaries, ASSOCHAM, and MD and CEO, Shri Ram Pistons and Rings, and Shri Sai Prasad Jadhav, CEO, Epsilon Group, esteemed participants from the automotive industry, and my dear friends. I am Harsh from Nomura Research Institute and Consulting Solutions. We are a management consulting firm with a deep focus on EVs and automotive sector in particular. At the outset, let me express my gratitude towards ASSOCHAM on the organization of this national conference with who's who of electric mobility in the attendance. NRI, in association with ASSOCHAM, has prepared a report which will be launched shortly. Let me summarize the key findings of our report. For those interested, we'll be circulating the report as well, so you can go through it in detail later. Just to talk a little bit about the auto sector. So with a contribution of about 7.5% in the total GDP and about 18.32% in the manufacturing GDP, auto sector is a key driver of India's economic growth and an essential medium to accelerate the Make in India program. Traditionally, auto industry has been heavily reliant on traditional fossil fuels and non-renewable energy sources. This has raised concerns regarding its impact on environment, climate change, and of course, depletion of non-renewable resources. To adopt a cleaner and eco-friendlier energy alternate, India has formulated policies to shift from traditional ICE vehicles to vehicles using alternate forms of energy, specifically EVs, as electrification-based technologies have a much higher impact on strengthening energy security and reducing carbon emissions as compared to fossil fuel-based technologies, such as probably ethanol or CNG. Further, dependence on fuel imports and consistently rising prices of conventional fuels have also prompted consumers to seek more cost-efficient transport solutions. These developments for adoption of clean engines for both commercial and private vehicles are expanding the ecosystem of electric mobility in India. 2022 in particular is proving to be a record year for EV sales, giving a much needed validation and confidence for consumers weighing their options between ICEs and EVs. The spike can be attributed to need for personal mobility, increased awareness for environmental concerns, and of course, a rise in prices of fuel as well. Despite rapid growth, however, India has sold approximately 14,000 four-wheeler electric cars in last year, compared to probably China, which sold about 27 lakhs last year. For India, the EV three-wheeler market is seeing a high penetration, however, in annual sales, followed by e-buses, with about 35% in three-wheelers and about 15% in buses last year. And I'm sure this number will be topped up this year as well. However, when it comes to two-wheelers and four-wheelers, our sales penetrations still remain below 1% and 0.5% respectively. Now, there have been significant policy initiatives, particularly in the last few years, both driven by central and state governments through policy interventions such as FAME, PMP, PLI, and many state EV policies, which have further helped in increased adoption of EVs. Talking a little bit about localization and government support in particular, Localization of supply chain for EVs is in fact the most critical step for unlocking the benefits of EV adoption in future. According to Niti Aayog estimates, about 40% of NMC and about 90% of LFC batteries value capture is possible in India via localization. The role of government initiatives would be primary force to drive EV adoption by setting up a direction for auto OEMs and suppliers at all tiers of India to develop the EV ecosystem. Moreover, in view of the recent safety incidents reported in EVs, it has become all the more critical to source the parts and aggregates from locally reliable suppliers, supported by rigorous testing and validation. India is targeting a reduced import dependency and local manufacturing through multiple measures from the government, with Atmanirbhar Bharat being the key measure here. India has devised a three-pillar strategy to promote local manufacturing ecosystem for EVs. These three pillars are import restrictions, demand subsidies under FAME 2, and supply creation through fiscal initiatives under PLI. This is intended to address the import dependency issues and support local manufacturers to develop the capacity to make the scale for EV components. The overall idea is to achieve maximum localization of components for which India has or can develop the capability with government support and OEM investment in EVs. In addition to these, recently launched initiatives like PM Gati Shakti, plans like ONDC and National Logistics Policy together are aimed to improve the demand, movement, and delivery of consumer goods, and hence pushing for drive for sustainable electric mobility further. Batteries still comprise about 40% of the total EV cost. Most battery manufacturers in India import cells from global players and assemble them into battery packs. However, as demand for batteries from both EVs and ESS segments continue to rise, India is looking forward to domestic cell manufacturing to cater to rising demand. Such measures will further encourage global and Indian players to set up a scaled battery and cell manufacturing facility in India. Many companies have already invested significantly in the advanced lithium-ion battery systems with high level of localization. Now talking a little bit about charging infra. So while EVs on road are set to increase, there will be an increased demand for on-the-go public charges as well across cities and highways going forward. Now, for EV adoption and accessible public charging, both of them go hand in hand. And with the rise of larger format EVs like four-wheeler, we need more fast chargers deployed across India as well. Compared to US, where there are 19 EVs dependent on one public charger, in India, that's 135 EVs for one charger for you. Additionally, the EV charging infrastructure is still being set up within tier 1 cities, but there also has to be a sustainable development for tier 2s and rural areas as well. Moving on to battery swapping. So that's another innovative solution where we can think of interoperability, and under battery as a service umbrella, automobile manufacturers and players can look at more sustainable business models and wider adoption. Moving on to financing. So financing again is a very critical component of EV deployment, and we are still at infancy when it comes to EV financing. According to CEEW's analysis, about 721,000 crores will be required throughout 21 till 2030 for financing EV loans, and banking sector will need to more than triple its current advances of 217,000 crores. In fact, a survey that we conducted with ASSOCHAM gathered views from industry stakeholders on various aspects of government support and EV financing. And the top asks were long-term pragmatic policymaking, lower import duties on components, coverage of new and incumbent players under PLI, and so forth. Many fintech companies, however, have taken lead in EV financing and are reporting high growth volumes of 5x to 8x under the eased financing after COVID-19. To conclude, under the able leadership of Shri Mahendranath Pandeyji, helming the Ministry of Heavy Industries, we have ensured policy support for localization of EV components. 57,000 crores have been allotted for the same through PLI schemes. Government has also allocated about 18,100 crores for manufacturing of advanced battery cells as well. These investments are welcomed by the industry. The government has been primarily focused on reducing India's reliance on fossil fuels and other traditional non-renewable sources of energy. However, we are still at a nascent stage of EV adoption and need strengthening of customer adoption measures to realize the objective of EV electrification in India. As we have seen that the recent developments with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, coupled with continued COVID-19 supply restrictions, logistic bottlenecks and also inflation. We have to move beyond to truly achieve Atmanirbharta. In the end, I would like to conclude that it is for everyone to see that the electric mobility revolution in India has already begun, and there's no stopping it. We're probably the last frontier. And we expect all the stakeholders to work together and position India as a global leading light in the EV industry. Thank you for your patient hearing. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Thank you. And with that, I now request Shri Tarun Kapoor, advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, PMO, and also our guest of honor at today's program, to deliver the keynote address. Let's welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Honorable Minister General V.K. Singh, Shri Nishant Arya, my co-panelists on the dais, participants in today's national conference. First of all, let me thank SHM for organizing this and getting all of you together to discuss such an important issue. For India, moving from fossil fuel to any forms where we can get more and more renewables into the system is very important, not only from environment point of view and commitments we've made at international level, our Prime Minister has made commitments we are all familiar with, but also from the other call which Honorable Prime Minister has given on Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have to reduce dependence on imports, and we don't have oil to the extent to meet our energy needs. Our energy needs will keep growing. India is probably one of the only countries, or probably the only large country in the world, where it is expected that the energy needs would keep growing at least in the next 15 years. And transport sector will also keep growing. So transport contributes about 17% to the greenhouse gas emissions, so can't be ignored. If we look from the environmental side, if we look from the side where how much of the energy is consumed here, so again it's 35% of the total energy in the country. So therefore, we have to look for alternatives in this sector. So far, while renewable energy penetration world over in, say, in the grid has gone up to around, say, in India it's at about 11-12% in terms of energy. In primary energy, world over it is about 4%, but in transport, penetration of renewable energy is minuscule so far. It's just about 1.5 to 2%. So that's an area we really need to concentrate on. So what alternatives do we have? The alternatives, the immediate alternative is EV. Going forward, there may be hydrogen, there may be certain other forms which a lot of innovation is going on. Biofuels is another area where India is working on, but then whatever we do, EV seems to be the not only the easiest, but probably what would move fastest. And even if we look for combination of 2-3 forms of fuel, then maybe hydrogen, biofuels, and electric vehicles, that is the answer for transport. So, and in India, transport sector is big. So last 21-22, some 17.5 million IC engine vehicles were sold, but out of that, EV was just 4.3 lakhs. So, but then the number is increasing very fast because the year prior to that, it was just 1.34. This has come out in the report also. So while the world is moving fast towards EV, we are also moving fast. The growth is quite significant, but then the numbers which we have to catch up are so huge that probably we'll have to double, triple, or go 4-5 times. So currently, EV sales are just say 2 to 3%. I think it has to go to some 50% in the next 10 years. We should target a much higher figure. And if we look at the two-wheeler, three-wheeler segment, then the four-wheeler segments, and then going on to large vehicles, buses, and then trucks, and also the mid vehicles. If you look at all these categories separately, then two-wheelers are probably the easiest, and even without much efforts now, I think electric two-wheelers has taken off, and I don't think there'll be much of a challenge there. The only thing is that we have to create an ecosystem. Probably on the charging infrastructure, standardization is required. That's one area. There would be more R&D required generally in battery. That is true for all entire EV, including two-wheelers. Other than that, what I find is that this movement towards electric two-wheelers is going to it's going to keep going up now year by year, and by 2030, what is estimated is that 80% of the two-wheelers sold would be EV. So that is one area where one can expect good success. Similarly in three-wheelers, but in three-wheelers, there's a lot of unorganized manufacturing happening. That's an area one has to be a little careful about. But in three-wheelers, we can very easily shift from petrol to CNG and EV, largely EV, but CNG will also happen. And in three-wheelers, battery swapping will work. So for that, we have to create the ecosystem, and we have to create facilities for battery swapping. Battery swapping probably would be successful in three-wheelers, certainly, maybe in four-wheelers also. Now, looking at four-wheelers, that's an area where we have so far achieved limited success. I think we need more brands, more variety in the market. We need to look at the price levels for the Indian customer where it will become more attractive. We need more or better financial instruments from financial institutions, so that gives a little more comfort to the buyers. And then probably this sector can also take off. And then I come to the bigger vehicles. So in the case of four-wheelers, we also have an alternative, because there is also talk of we are already doing ethanol blending in petrol, which will keep going up. And there's also talk of flexi-fuel with strong hybrids. So strong hybrids and flexi-fuel, that will be another area. So in four-wheelers, the future, what I see is that there would be EV plus there would be strong hybrids and flexi-fuel. But then if we move to the larger segment, so let's just look at buses. So in buses, what alternatives do we have? EV has been successful wherever it has been deployed, but then the numbers are so huge that, again, this is another area where we'll have to go, say, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and as we move on, we will have to innovate, because as the size of vehicle goes up, the size of battery also goes up, charging time, charging infrastructure, all that requirement, it becomes a little more difficult. But in city buses, driving around in cities, I don't think it is difficult. So for wherever the distance is not very long and in a single charge it is possible, there electric bus is the answer, and we have nothing to even think about. The price has also come down to a level where it's become probably more competitive than diesel buses. So that's an area where there is no alternative except to move to electric as soon as possible. So that's why government has some schemes where incentives are being given, and as we move forward, probably we'll come up with even more incentives to promote electric buses in a big way. Now, if we look at the other segment, which is trucks or carrying of goods, now that is a segment which I would still treat as the most difficult segment because I don't think we have very clear-cut answers yet. How to get electric into that where the distances may be large, but then there is also a large segment um, where goods are distributed within cities. So that's the segment where immediately EV can come in a big way because again distances are not much and we can have lighter vehicles and uh, we can develop a system because we are moving into organized logistics now and government is laying a lot of emphasis on building logistic parks and facilities where in a very organized way because we have to reduce the cost of logistics in India. That's another target before us. And that will happen only if we do it in an organized manner and then within the city or short distance delivery of goods that has to be looked into in a very organized way and then EV will play a very major role there. And there would be a time when cities will not allow diesel for delivery of goods within cities. This is going to come. This is going to come because already government is drawing up plans regarding some identified cities where pollution is high. So more than 100 cities have been identified and we are drawing up plans on how we can bring down pollution. So movement of goods within cities is going to be a very critical area. So therefore, the industry must get alternatives for delivery of goods within cities. So that is an area where we need to work on. So now this is the broad picture, but then in order to achieve that, we need to get manufacturing into India end to end, complete. Value addition should happen in India. So as came out in the presentation also, even now 40% of the cost of a EV is battery. And that's where a lot of innovation has taken place, but then price has not come to a level where the world is comfortable. We are stuck with lithium ion. Lithium ion is not where India has a big advantage, though we will have to look for sources to be able to get that raw material either domestically or at least tie it up internationally so that we can get manufacturing of battery also in a big way in India. But then we have to look for alternatives moving away from lithium ion. So there's a lot of R&D happening and we look forward to some good breakthroughs. Already there are talks of alternatives which might be viable and which might be even more cost effective, but on commercial scale, we still have to see what really comes into the market. But that's again an area where Indian industry must concentrate and must work, and without some big breakthroughs in battery, I don't think we can achieve that level of indigenization as far as EV is concerned. But at least other components we can do 100%, and that's why PLI schemes and all those incentives that come from the government. But then these schemes have to move much faster. This government can announce schemes, but how the industry takes those schemes and moves faster, and also gives feedback so that in case there are hiccups, in case there are problems, then we are able to address them immediately. So as a team, Team India, we have to perform. We have to become a part of energy transition and rather lead this pathway for the world and ensure that not only does India become a manufacturing hub for EV, but also we are able to shift very fast from fossil fuels to electric. There is criticism sometimes that we are drawing energy from the grid and that grid itself is largely dependent on fossil fuel, but that's a different story. There's a lot of work going on to green the grid also. The recent RPO trajectory which has come out from Power Ministry takes the level of greening of the grid to a much higher level, and we will move much faster into getting renewables into the grid than what we had thought, and a lot of work is being done. So that's not too much of a worry at the moment. A lot of efforts are being done, but on the other end, if we can get we can have this shift from fossil fuel directly to EV faster, then that would really help. And it involves bringing the cost down at every level. It involves getting better products into the market. It involves facilitating in all ways so that the customer gets better comfort. From the government side, various incentives, tax benefits, and wherever required, all the other help which is possible would be forthcoming. But then industry also has to gear up, and industry also has to give feedback on what is required. So thank you very much, and we look forward to good deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kapoor, for a very comprehensive keynote. We thank you for joining us today and speaking to all of us. It's time for me to now invite the Honourable Minister of State for Road Transport and Highways and Civil Aviation, Government of India, General Dr. V.K. Singh, to kindly address the gathering, give the inaugural address. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all give him a huge round of applause and welcome him.
It's a pleasure to be amongst you all today, and seeing the hall overflowing gives me a lot of hope. On the dais today with us, we have Shri Taran Kapoor, advisor in the PMO, Shri Harshvardhan Sharma, head of Automotive Retail Practice, Automotive Industry Consulting Group. We have Shri Nishant Arya, Chairman, National Council on Green Mobility of the ASSOCHAM, and of course, S. Krishna Kumar, and all the people who are interested, who are manufacturing, looking at manufacturing, marketing, who are all sitting here. Let me say that it's a pleasure to have a seminar being organized on green mobility solutions and what we should be looking for in the future. We have heard many things, and we also heard what Tarun Kapoorji gave out just now in terms of certain issues which are there, which we need to look at. The future and sustainability that we talk of lies in ensuring that we cut down our fossil fuel bills. Fossil fuel, whether it is imported, whether it is in any other form, has to be cut down if we are looking at sustainability, and if we are looking at environment, if we are looking at cleaner air to breathe. And for that, the answer is, what is it that will be safer, cleaner, better? And of course, electric mobility stands out in that. It was also brought out that we have issues with lithium, and rightly so, because at some point of time when we should have been looking at where the world is going, I think we lagged a little behind. And today we are looking at procurement which remains majorly controlled by one country, which controls large number of mines in the world. So a good part is that India, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat incentive, under the Atmanirbhar Bharat motivation, has been working on alternatives. And it has been very, very encouraging to know of the developments that are taking place. We are sure that sodium ion, where the work has proceeded pretty well, will come up with very good results. We are also very happy that where hydrogen ion technology is concerned and hydrogen cell technology is concerned, we are moving pretty well forward. And if I can say that India is gifted because solar power prices being what they are in India, our hydrogen cell technology will be the cheapest when it comes into the market, so which makes a difference. But we need to first decide as to what we want to do. Today, you have two-wheelers, you have three-wheelers in terms of auto rickshaws, you have four-wheelers coming in, tentative, in terms of the passenger car market, a lot of people going for it, prices remain high, where the four-wheelers are concerned. And of course, the concern also remains where the agricultural and heavy machinery is concerned, and where the load carriers are concerned as to what do we do. So what needs to be done is we need to look at what is possible and what can slowly, gradually move into the other fields. And I feel that where the city travel is concerned, let's concentrate on electric mobility. Let's ensure that our buses, whether the buses run on battery or they run on electric traction like trams used to run. We need public transportation which will make things cheaper, which is better, which will be attractive for people to travel and they can leave their cars behind. Otherwise, like Gadkari ji says, we are very good in ensuring that our population and our vehicles increase every year. We will have a problem. So we need to look at city travel, and intercity travel is restrictive in terms of how far your battery can carry you, what kind of charging times are available, whether the system is going to be a swappable system or you have charging stations where it will take X amount of time. There are people who are working on fast charging. They claim that the charging will be as fast as it is required for you to fill up your vehicle with gas at a petrol bunk. If that comes up, very good. So charging stations then need to amalgamate wherever you have petrol bunks, so that wherever a vehicle stops, it has facilities available. Similarly, the swappable battery system is also catching on, whether it is two-wheelers or four-wheelers, where in a minute or so or 2 minutes, you can change the battery and carry on and change the battery subsequently at next station. There are people coming up. There was a youngsters group which came to me from Kolkata, and where two-wheelers are concerned, they are going on for a swappable model. And they say that it is becoming very popular in and around Kolkata. I'm sure it can catch on in the rest of the country also. Our problem with two-wheeler market is where the youngsters are concerned, they want extra speed. At the moment, our two-wheeler EV is not giving the type of speed that a youngster in the village or somewhere wants to have. And therefore, it becomes a less attractive option when he wants to buy a vehicle. I think we need to look at it as manufacturers as to what is it that we can do. Make it in a manner that it becomes as attractive as the present two-wheelers are, if not as fast, but at least reasonably fast enough with speed, so that this stigma that gets attached to it goes away. Similarly, where the city transportation is concerned, there have been a lot of models which have come up, one being the London bus model, where the manufacturer or a company owns the vehicle, they have their own driver, and they enter into an agreement with the municipality or the corporation that is in the town. You fix a mileage for a day, and accordingly the profits get shared. I think it's a good model. Some countries are already practicing it. In India also, there are cities which have adopted this model. It works out very well. Vehicle gets cared for. The official bodies are very happy because their worries are not there, and they can dump all the non-performing transportation system that exists. We also need to look at bio-CNG. Where do we amalgamate it? Is it, will it be all right to amalgamate it in a mix of EV in the cities? Will it be better that we segment this market towards agriculture so that all the bio-waste can be utilized and you can produce bio-CNG and bio-PNG and use that for the machinery that is used in the agriculture? It will make things cheaper for a farmer, and it will make things cleaner. It will also ensure that we can get rid of this parali menace that takes place. It can It gives you ethanol, it gives you methane, you can convert it, and you can get rid of the present problem where a farmer has a window of 15 days from harvesting to sowing in which it has to be taken out, and that's why he burns it. So we need to put our heads together. I think answer does not lie in looking at solutions which are outside the country. Our problems are unique. Now, load carriers, I think already one firm is working on how do they convert the load carrier to electric traction or to some other methodology. This needs to be looked at seriously. There is another model available which is like what I spoke about, the tram type of electric traction, where you can segment a particular lane on the expressways that are being created and all the load carriers move in it. It'll be cheaper. Now, when you're looking at the ecosystem, I think that is where our minds must work. Nothing can come up in isolation if the ecosystem is not there. And what does ecosystem imply? It implies that you should have sufficient power. So somewhere somebody has to look at the availability of power in the years to come. You must be able to manufacture all the possible parts here. Today, there are many firms in India which are exporting to all the best automotive manufacturers various parts which are built in India, which are made in India, manufactured in India. In fact, I have one small unit in Ghaziabad, largest exports in last 2 years of auto parts of quality to the best of the companies that you can name. So our capability is there. We need to create that rather than wait, okay, when the market takes off, then we will do it. The market is taking off in the entire world. Earlier we started, the better it is for us, so that we become the suppliers right in the beginning rather than then catching up and competing with the others. Similarly, we need to ensure that all possible things which are utilized are manufactured in India. We are already the world leaders where recycling of our lead acid batteries are concerned. Will it take time to change over to also ensuring that we become world leaders in recycling the lithium ion and the other electric batteries? I don't think so. There was again, I'm quoting this concern led by youngsters from Kolkata. They were telling me that people had imported batteries from China, which are the ones which were catching fire or were malfunctioning. And all that it required was a software solution, worked out in-house by 2 graduates of IIT Kharagpur, and they had a battery which was far better than what was being imported. In any case, the lithium-ion battery doesn't have too many parts, easily recyclable. So we need to look at the entire spectrum if we want EV industry and the alternative mobility for greening our mobility sector in a more effective manner so that we can have various things that will come up. Hydrogen is looking very promising. I'm sure this is one sector that will catch on in another couple of years. Where the Ministry of Road, Highways and Transport is concerned, we have also taken out various instructions and various notifications which will assist the e-mobility sector, as well as it will also assist in the ethanol usage. A particular technology which is sourced from Russia allows ethanol to attain the same calorific value as petrol. Now, if that be the case, then you can have 100% ethanol. It is 60 rupees compared to 120 rupees of petrol. It can become cheap. It can make a good sense for even our farmers. So it can have a positive effect all around. All that is needed is people like you who are sitting here to get back to your manufacturing units, to your boards, to your units, and think of what you can do in terms of the charter that is available to you. And I won't be wrong in saying that sky is the limit. The earlier we start, the better would be. Earlier we are off the block, better would be our condition in the world market. And like I said, there are sectors in which we are doing extremely well because in our case, solar energy is far cheaper than what it is available in rest of the world. So the thought I want to leave with you is, whatever deliberations you do, keep it at the back of your mind that our future lies in ensuring that we make this e-mobility and the green mobility sector successful. And that is something which we can do. It is not something which cannot be done. More production, the things will come down in cost. It's simple economics. The more the things which are available, it will bring down, the more demand will be there. And of course, wherever you feel things are required by the government to assist you, some are already there. But as we go along, I'm sure more things will come up. We are also looking at it. You also look at it. And I would request Nishant that after the deliberations are over, do give us some points which came up, which we need to look at it more seriously. With these words, thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for talking to all of us here. It's a privilege and honor for all of us to have you at our today's program, and thank you for sharing with us your thoughts and perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, we've almost come to an end of the inaugural session. I'm going to request Mr. S. Krishnakumar, co-chair of the National Council on Auto and Auto Ancillaries, ASSOCHAM, also MD and CEO, Shri Ram Pistons and Rings Limited, to kindly give the concluding remarks and propose a formal vote of thanks. Please welcome him.
Good morning. Honorable Minister, Shri V.K. Singh ji, Shri Tarun Kapoor ji from the PMO, Shri Nishant Arya ji, Shri Harshvardhan Sharma ji, and all my dear friends. We have seen today that we have a minister who has gone into such depths of understanding the e-mobility sector and the perspectives that were laid down by both the Honorable Minister, Shri V.K. Singh ji, as well as Mr. Tarun Kapoor ji, has been very, very enriching. And they have covered, in the short time that they were asked to speak, we have seen that they have covered the entire gamut and entire range of topics that needs to be covered in the e-mobility segment. Starting with the power's generation, we have seen that the overall sector will require a huge amount of power when we are talking about, powering up the electric vehicles. And the Honorable Minister rightly covered that we have to look at the ecosystem and we have to look at how we are able to generate the required power. The initial study shows that while we are generating close to 400 gigawatts of power today, with almost 25% of it being renewable, there is a need, and with the commitment that we have done in Paris, there is a need for us to convert almost 60% of this 400 gigawatts into renewable energy, and at the same time, looking at how we can power up the EV vehicles. At the way the penetration of the EV vehicles is going on, we expect that by 2030, we will have a park of almost close to 100 million vehicles, a mix of two-wheelers, cars, commercial vehicles, buses, and others. And this 100 million vehicles, on an average, will require almost close to 200 gigawatts of power, over and above what we are generating today, which means that the country has to look at converting almost close to 400 gigawatts of power to renewable. And that's a tall ask. And I think the government is thinking in the right way for looking at this segment and looking at this sector to get converted to more sustainable means. Apart from this, there is, as rightly addressed by all the speakers ahead of me, there is a need to look at the right solutions for the country. And I think, as the Honorable Minister said, that the battery that we are going to use, we are dependent today on one country for the lithium ion, and that too they have almost garnered almost 60% or 70% of the mine fields, lithium mine fields, have been garnered by them, have been cornered by them. As a result, that we have very limited resources available as far as this particular segment is concerned. So there is a need for us to look at other areas like sodium ion, air metal batteries like aluminum air and others, and try to see how we can generate the required energy density and use it for all our mobility needs. So the topics that have been chosen by us for this particular seminar rightly covers the needs of the battery, the needs of how we can have a sustainable methodology of ensuring that these batteries are made in India, in the country, with all the available subsidies as well as the PLI schemes that have been given by the government, so that we are able to generate it at scale, not only for India but also for the world. The next area which is going to be of great importance is going to be the motor technology. Here again, we are seeing that the motor technology is changing day by day, and there is a need to come to more and more efficient motors. And this requires a lot of magnets. And when you talk about magnets, this again is imported into the country. And we need a good amount of, let's say, focus in manufacturing magnets in the country or manufacturing magnets with rare earth metals. So I'm sure that all of you will deliberate today in the further sessions that we have as to how we can address the requirement of magnets and the manufacturing of magnets in the country. The third area, of course, is also the charging infrastructure. Just to power, by 2030, we are talking about a park of around 100 million vehicles. This will require, on an average, not more than, let's say, close to 3 million chargers. So we have to make that many chargers available in the country. So this is another area which I'm sure that you will be deliberating in the further sessions. We also have a good session on managing the challenges of charging infrastructure and faster adoption of EV for the same. So using all these best practices that are available and also at looking at various technologies that are available, I'm sure all of you will deliberate today on the methodologies of making mobility more and more smart and more electrified, thereby achieving more sustainable green mobility that is needed for the country. I take this opportunity of thanking Shri Honorable Minister Shri V.K. Singh ji. I also thank Shri Tarun Kapoor ji, Nishant Arya ji, and Harshvardhan Sharma ji for taking out the time and being with us and giving their perspectives on this very important topic. Once again, thanks a lot. And on behalf of ASSOCHAM, I also thank all of them and all of you for coming over to this session. I hope you have a very useful session today. And I want to take this opportunity of giving a good round of applause to the Honorable Minister. Thank you.